It is my pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm much less a lawyer than a diplomat, I have to admit, but I also will not try to speak that much about the Hungarian legal situation as colleagues prior to me have subscribed it in a fantastic manner. And I have to say that I am very grateful for the Institute that we could hear so many good examples of neighboring countries and Visegrad countries, legal systems around families. These are always very important for our work, and of course it's always nice to know how others solve these issues. I may just want to speak a couple of words here at the beginning. We had the fundamental law already described by the speaker before me. Maybe I would like to quote nevertheless one sentence which is very important when we talk about families in Hungary. It also is a quote. It's an article 2 of the Constitution, the fundamental law. It says that human dignity shall be inviolable. Every human being shall have the right to life and human dignity, and this is the important section here. The life of the fetus shall be protected from the moment of conception. So we will see in a couple of minutes time where we actually use these words and actually give another meaning within family policy to the fetus's right of life. And of course, the protection of families Cardinal Act says that there is no well-functioning society without a well-functioning family, and it puts the protection of families to the hands of the state, the churches, the local government, civic organizations, media, economic actors as a shared duty. So it is also very important that the cardinal law defines the protection of families as a shared duty of so many actors. And maybe a quote from the name giver of our institute is that the supportive family is the foundation for a positive quality of life. This is from Maria Kopp. And a couple of words on how actually Hungary looks like when it comes to population and demographic affairs. We have a declining population since 1981. We lost nearly
Dr. Molnár, sorry for the interruption. Now we can see merely the first slide. That was your...
I have jumped already to the third. It does not move?
No, I think it is because of the selection of a window. You know, maybe you have selected the standard PPT window. Okay, it's okay.
It's better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so it can't do the projection. Okay, is it all right now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. So since 1981, we have population decline, as many countries in Europe. Practically, there is no European Union member state which reaches the renewables fertility that would be 2.1. We currently stand at 1.55, which is quite high for us, but it's still just above the European average. But it is a great gain, 24% gain, which is the largest in the European Union since 2010, when we registered the lowest number, which was 1.23. Fertility describes the number of children one woman has throughout her life. We have quite some negative demographic effects. Hungarian colleagues are familiar with the Radko effect. It practically means that between 2010 and 2020, we had roughly 261,000 less women in the childbearing ages between the ages of 20 to 39, and which means that practically we would need much more babies to be born by much less women in childbearing ages. So this is quite a challenge, but we do like challenges, as you know us. On the other hand, unfortunately, the age group of the Radko grandchildren were in their fertile ages during the previous left-wing governments, when they managed to reach declining demographic, despite the fact that there were much more women in their childbearing ages. But this family-centered value of the Hungarian people did not change. this is quite outstanding still in European comparison. When we ask Hungarians about how many children they would wish to have, those in childbearing ages still say that they would like to have 2.37 in average. So we have a record high growth of fertility, but this is still to be continued. The aim is to reach a 2.1, so the renewables fertility until the year of 2030. We managed to close the gap between the children wanted and the children actually born in families. Out of 5 wished children, 4 are born now, and it was only 3 in 2010. The expenditures, I will speak about that a bit. We are spending roughly twice the OECD average, nearly 5% of the national GDP on families. And within that, I believe it is a very important figure, is that we have raised the employment-related benefits very much, whereby we did not raise those benefits which are granted without any eligibility testing. We will see that. And when we talk about that increase in fertility, it practically means that in the last decade, we have 115,000 more babies born compared to if we would have remained at that record low fertility of 1.23. 115,000 babies is quite some extra above 1 year of the amount of babies born in this country. There are some favorable tendencies. Unfortunately, the population is still shrinking. As I have told you, we have positivity in the number of live births, which is quite a miracle, as I have said, that we have much less women in childbearing ages. But despite, we still have some babies more, 2,500 more than in 2010. We still have quite high number of abortions in Hungary, but the decline is steady, and we see that the trends are moving in the right direction. And we have 83% more marriages than in 2010, which is very important. And it is also important because if we ask Hungarians in childbearing ages what are the 3 determining factors on how many children they would have. First is the stability of partnership, practically marriage. The second one is a stable employment, and the third one is an individual home. We will talk about that a bit later. And despite the fact that we have much more marriages, we do not have increase, but rather quite a steady decrease in divorces. And despite the negative voices which could have been heard about the coronavirus epidemic on divorces, that there will be so much more divorces due to the lockdown and due to home office and due to homeschooling, we can report that we managed to have 15% less divorces in 2020 than in 2019. And another very favorable development is that in contrary to many critics from the opposition side, we do not want to chain women to the stove, but rather help them to have as many children they would wish to have, and help them to get back to work when they would like to go back to work. And this means that we have a quite steady growth in female employment. Actually, that 13% growth is the second largest within the European Union countries. Only Malta could fare better in that regard. And I would like to say just one word about the philosophical background of what is done in family policy and in demographic policy in this country. Well, the most important is that we do not want to send a message that having a family equals poverty. So actually, social affairs have been separated from family affairs, or rather other way around. So family affairs have been separated from social affairs, as we do not want to send the message that families have to be helped so that they do not live in poverty. but rather other way around. We would like to enable Hungarian families to have as many children as they wish to have. And then a couple of words about our measures. The flagship is the family taxation. Hungary had family taxation in the first Fidesz government between 1998 and 2002. Then it has been drastically reduced, and in 2010 it was only possible to have any tax reduction for those who had 3 or more children in a quite low amount. So that time in 2010 we had 106,000 Hungarians benefiting from family taxation. It is currently more than 1 million, and it means that you can reduce your tax by 30 euros if you have 1 child, if by 120 euros if you have 2 children, and by 300 euros per month if you have 3 children. Two very exciting developments in Hungary here. One is that as of 2020, those mothers who have 4 children, they do not have to pay any personal income tax throughout their career. And as of next year, as of 2020, Hungarians under 25 will be exempted from paying personal income tax as well. There we took the brave and early move of our Polish and Croatian friends and introduced a similar system what they already have in place. Why is that so important? First of all, because it by that family policy serves the goal of activation and serves the goal of greening or whitening the economy and channeling people towards legitimate employment. In 2010, we had huge problems with that. We are proud to say that we have 850,000 people more in employment in a country of less than 10 million, in a work or employment market of roughly 4.3 million person, so 850,000 people more in employment, and the family taxation altogether left 700 million forints it's euros, 700 million euro at the disposal of families, and it is even more important that quite some proportion of that, practically lots of that money, had been spent locally. This had been channeled into the internal consumption, and by that it did fuel very much the growth of the economy in the last couple of years. The specificity of the Hungarian family policy is that it provides a real option for the families. Hungarian families, in particularly mothers, but of course also fathers, may decide to stay home with a baby for 3 years if they wish so, or if they would like to return back to the labor market at an earlier point, that will be supported largely by targeted measures. This chart shows you the quite sophisticated measures. One is that you can see that there are quite some possibilities. For example, the tax system where the fetus is taken into account after the 90th day of the pregnancy, and of course we will have other examples for that. I will show you later. So we have, as I said, family taxation. We have a one-time one-off maternity support. We have a two-staged family allowance. This is paid to all families without any eligibility testing, or actually there is one eligibility. That the second one, the whole so-called school benefit, it is only granted to families if they send their children to education. And when this measure was introduced in the next year, absenteeism was reduced by 64% in schools. We have two sorts of possibilities of family support. As I have mentioned, we very much focus on upscaling those which are linked to the employment, prior employment before giving birth, but we also have two supports which are non-eligibility tested. One is the childcare allowance. This is paid. This is 92 euros a month, and this is paid to everyone for 3 years if they do not have any prior social security contribution, or it is actually also paid to those who have social security contributions between the age of 2 and 3 of the child. And then we have the infant care fee. This is 70% of the previous income of the mother. It can only be granted to mothers. And as of July 1st, 2021, so a couple of 2 weeks from now, this will be raised to 100%. And it will mean, as you do not have to pay any social security contributions after this amount, that the mother giving birth after the birth for the first 6 months of the child will bring home more money than the same tier worker would make if she would not have given birth to a child. So there it is a positive discrimination for mothers, and we all know that in those first 6 months many of the expenditure do occur. And for the next 1.5 years we have the childcare fee. This is 70% of the previously owned income, but it is capped at 665 euros a month, and this is indexed yearly. So that is already a bit smaller amount. And then we have the so-called child raising support, which is for those who live in large families. So if you have 3 or more children, you will receive that support until the child goes to school. And then work-life balance. We all know that we would like to enable that option which I have talked about. One is that we have a compulsory kindergarten in Hungary. So between the age of 3 and 6, children have to go to the kindergarten. Of course, if you want to homeschool your children, you may apply and you will be granted permission not to send your child to kindergarten. But the aim of that measure was to allow, especially for those children coming from disadvantaged neighborhoods and families and the environment, to have 2 extra years to socialize, to receive healthy food 5 times a day, to be educated 2 years longer than before, because prior to that change it was only the last year of kindergarten, and as in many countries, which was compulsory. And then we have a conceptual transformation of the daycare system. We have more than 30,000 increase in places. Kindergartens or nurseries are not entirely free of charge, but this is a very modest contribution from families. Practically they have to pay for the catering, and actually, as we will see in a later stage, we have many families who do not have to pay for catering. We have a Women 40 early pension scheme. This is the only remaining early pension possibility in Hungary. Any women who have 40 years of service period may enjoy retirement. We have more than 300,000 Hungarians who already made use of that. This is only partially a family policy measure, as this is also called the so-called granny pension, that it would allow, as the careers are getting longer and longer, it allows the grandmothers to go to retirement earlier and help out with the families. And we have a network of family and career points in practically every town to help the reconciliation of work and family life to Hungarians. And here I have to say a couple of words about one particular measure. This is called the JED Extra, which is the childcare fee extra program, which allows Hungarians to keep the maternity benefit, the 665 euros, and go back to employment starting from the 6-month age of the child, and work either part-time or full-time, and continue to receive the benefit. This is a very important measure, as we all know that around our countries, sometimes to make work pay, it's not easy. To return to the labor market in a lower position, for example, part-time, it might not necessarily be worth to take the job, as if you have to travel, you have to put the child to crash, it might just not be worth, and that's why many women actually remained longer home than they would have wanted. So this measure helped these women as well. And then just a couple of words about housing support. The aim is twofold at least. the first is that we would like to help Hungarian families to gain more and more in their financial situation. So we are supporting the purchase of own homes. This is very much, I believe, a Central European, but certainly a Hungarian phenomenon, that people would not like to rent, but rather would like to own a house. It might be in relation to the fact that we were not allowed to have our own homes in the earlier than the 1990s. So housing, and on the other hand, as I have said, very important factor is having an own home when you decide on how many children you would wish to have. And the third one is, when this program was started, it was 2015. We still lived in the aftermath of the economic crisis, and the construction sector employment was very low. And one of the characteristics of the construction sector is that it absorbs a lot of unskilled workers, and their employment was higher than we would have wanted to see it. So with this twofold, the big housing schemes called CHOP started, it practically allows the purchase of used and new homes and flats. There are requirements on square feet and square meters, and sorry, it means that if you have 3 children and you want to buy a used home, you receive a benefit of 7,100 euros. If you have 3 children, or you commit to have 3 children in the future, you receive an even higher amount, that is 32,000 euros, and you are also eligible to a state subsidized loan. The two together is a very, very high incentive of building a new energy efficient home. And of course, it should not limit the desire to have as many children as you would wish to have, if you do have a big enough home where actually the energy prices and the utility bills can be also paid, as these are much more energy efficient. I have talked about the poverty issue. Yes, we did separate social policy and family policy, and but it does not mean that there is not a lot done in order to reduce poverty in Hungary. We managed to do better than the 2020 Europe 2020 strategy of the European Union would want us to, and we downscaled the poverty in Hungary not just by 450,000, but by 1.1 million in the last decade. And one of the important factors is linked to families, is linked to raising children. So it is very important that we extended the opportunity of free or subsidized catering. We have free supply of textbooks now already in all classes of elementary school. And we are doing these measures on a way that these do not stigmatize. It is very important that it's not just 1 or 2 or 3 child in the corner who can't pay for meal, but it's rather half of the class or even more who either pays nothing or in a very much subsidized way receive healthy catering in public institutions, kindergartens, crashes, schools. And then we have an Elizabeth program, which means that those coming from disadvantaged circumstances can take holidays in these big facilities around the Balaton, for example. And we use the disclosures of the last summer for completely modernizing these. So as of June the 1st, also sleeping or also those camps where children stay for overnight as well. These are allowed as well. So in that sense, I believe we can be very supportive. We can be very proud of that. And minority Hungarians from neighboring countries are also invited. And for example, when we had the Ukrainian crisis, the children from the affected neighborhoods of Ukraine were also welcomed in these camps a couple of years ago for holidays. And then families are supported in an integrated manner. Those families who are in need, For example, the Safe Start program is a complex program which supports the schooling of the child, and in parallel it supports the parents in educating skills in how to run a household, how to come out from money, how to apply for interviews. And so this is a complete complex help, and this is already a model program of the European Union as well. This is very successful and again already shows some very nice results. Safe Start program it is called. And of course we have extended the network of foster parents. In our relation and in the right of life scenario, it is also very important because we could channel some of those who would have wished to go for abortion towards foster parenting. And then awareness raising, apart from financial incentives, I believe it is even more important to somehow revisit the social standing of families and childbearing. And for that we've been doing a lot. We have a big campaign of Family Friendly Hungary. We had a year dedicated to family friendliness to families in 2018. That's when our institute started to work. We had huge programs. We had adverts between football matches, and it did show that it is fun to live in a family, even in a large family, and this is practically normal, because we are convinced that this is important to counteract all those negative media images that is somehow linked to families. And we can state proudly that this country is not famous for the no children policies of airlines or hotels, but rather other way around. As the financial situation of families had been constantly upscaled, these actually economic actors are very much looking forward to welcome families. And a couple of closing remarks. I hope I'm not very much over my time limit. We had a large program starting in 2019 and 2020 of 7 points. I have already touched upon these, a couple of bits of this. But what is very important is that the subsidy for young married couples, it is linked to marriage. And those who are a married couple and the wife is between the age of 18 and 40, they can receive a 30,000 euro loan, which can easily be transformed into a subsidy. As in case this couple has one child, then the repayment of the loan will be suspended for 3 years. In case the couple has a second child, then another 3-year suspension comes, but 30% of the outstanding debt is written off. And in case this family has a third child, then the entire outstanding debt will be written off by the state. So in case you have 3 children, you receive a free, without any limitation, loan which can be spent on practically anything. Actually, our research shows that most of the families spent it on buying a property and use that as the starting money for that. State-supported loans for housing, I mentioned there. We upscaled the possibilities for the used homes, as it was requested by Hungarians. We also have a program of the decrease of the mortgages of the families. So if the family has a second child, then 3,000 euro will be written off of their mortgage. And in case a third child arrives, then 12,000 euros is written off of the existing mortgage of the family. And in case the fourth, and so on, the merrier the children arrive to the family, it's always 1 million forints, so it's always roughly 3,000 euros written off of the existing mortgages of the family. I have mentioned the personal income tax exemption of the mothers with 4 children. We have 45,000 mothers with 4 children benefiting from that possibility.
And Dr. Molnár, sorry for the interruption, but due to the time limit, can you summarize?
I can, yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Just then to mention that I have talked about these nursery development programs, The aim is to have 70,000 places until 2022 that covers all needs. A car purchase support for large families is a 7,500 euro subsidy that is given to families with 3 or more children to buy a 7-seater. This is also a large help. And then the grandparents become eligible for the subsidized parental leave. That is also an intergeneration support. It means that families may, or grandparents may take the childcare fee instead of their children and stay home with their grandchildren. And that again is some sort of a flexibility given into the system. This is a very nice program. It is very popular. We have more than 360,000 applications already. And maybe just the last sentence, that due to the coronavirus, families have been hit hard, but we have experienced that it was roughly 1/4 of the families, both in the first and the third wave, who said that their family ties became better, and only a couple of percentage said that the family ties and the family relations worsened. 75%, 70% said that they remain the same. And throughout the crisis, families have been helped with quite some measures, extension of they did not have to pay back the loans. They did receive the family benefits, even if these would have run out. But of course, it was not easy to apply for jobs and so on. So as we see, these measures have also helped during the coronavirus times. Sorry for being so late. Thank you very much for your kind attention.